Yeah.
The Indian girl who guided Lewis and Clark Sacajawea. The buffalo moved. Get ready, get ready. Came the cry. Far out on the prairie, 2 scouts circled about on horseback and tossed their robes into the air, signalling the news to the Shoshone village some distance away. The plains-dwelling tribe were so dependent upon the huge shaggy beasts that they had no choice but to follow where they led. From the buffalo came both meat for food and skin for clothing. Come, my little bird, Sacagawea's mother said. She picked up the cradle board, paddled with soft leather and bright with quill embroidery, and hung it from the saddle of her horse. A skin pouch attached to the board held the tiny baby snugly. Sacagawea's eyes sparkled, and she crowed with glee. Crowed? She looked like a baby bird singing in its nest. The men had rounded up the ponies. The women had taken down the light skin teepees, each wrapped around the cone like framework of poles. Widely rounding at the base, the strong poles were lashed together over a horse to form a crude drag that carried the family's possessions. Sacagawea's brother, Kamahawait, sat there. At the head of the colony rode Sacagawea's father into a buffalo horn. He had packed a few coals and moist, rotten wood. He had to go first so that a fire could be kindled at the next camp to start the lodge. Fire anew. No one knew where or how far the buffalo would lead them, whether they would stay upon the flat, tabled land, or whether coming into enemy country they would seek the mountains, a purple shimmer in the distance, and hunt only as they could. This was Sacagawea's life. The sweeping winds, the mountain heights, the sudden moves, days of feasting or days of hunger, and constant work. Skins must be cleaned, tanned, and made into clothes. Meat must be cut, pounded, and dried to keep. Berries and wild roots must be picked or dug. There was no time for settled ways, for the buffalo were never still. When she had reached the age of 10, Sacagawea had long had a horse of her own. When she rode along the highway trails, she saw the vast country rolling before her. Most of it she knew. I wish I were really a bird, she would say to Kamahawait. Then I could see it all. What lies on the other side of the mountains? Where do the rivers go? How far do the prairies reach? One day the Shoshones were in the midst of preparing buffalo meat after the hunt. Run, run, Kamahawait cried as he leapt upon his horse. Loud war whoops drowned out his words. Many of the Shoshones fell in the surprise attack. Others fled back to the mountains. Sacagawea was seized by her long black hair and lifted to a warrior's horse, and she was carried away. She saw her brother in the midst of the fighting. This was the last she was to know of her, or hear of her people for many years. When the Minataris came to their own village, they gave Sacagawea to the woman. Take her, she is yours, they said. Put her to work. But though she had to work hard, she was not treated unkindly. The woman showed her how to plant fields of corn, beans, and squash. Sacagawea had to hoe the ground with a buffalo shoulder blade. She dug the soil with a pointed stick, pushed in the seeds, and later helped with the harvest. The Minataris were surprised at her wonder over the planting. My people could pick only the wild plants, Sacagawea said. She thought of the endless drifting of her tribe, of the skin houses that travelled with them. The Minataris' houses were not made of skin, but of earth. They were great circular rooms with hard-packed floors and dome-shaped roofs. The houses were clustered over a bend of a river and walled off from attack by a high, strong fence. Sacajawea found the new way of life a happy change from the fear and danger of the old day-to-day one. One day, a French trader named Toussaint Charbonneau came to the village. Sacajawea was now 17. She was pleased to see a young and strong, and Charbonneau made her his wife. Soon afterward he told her a strange thing. Many white people live to the far east, he said. Two of them, Captain Lewis and Captain Clark, have come to explore the land between the Missouri River and the Great West. They will winter at the Indian village and start out in the spring. They will claim the land for the United States. Although Sacajawea knew about white men, she could not understand all her husband told her, but her heart pounded at his next remark. "Can you still speak your own language?" he asked her. "Yes, oh yes," Sacajawea replied. "I've never forgotten." "Do you still know your old country?" Charbonneau asked next. "Yes, oh yes," Sacajawea answered. "Just as I see the clouds and the stars in the sky, I can close my eyes and see the mountains and the valleys and the old trails that were followed." "Good, good," Charbonneau said, smiling. "Then we will go with the white men, for they need help through the mountains, and they will pay me well." Sacajawea trembled with excitement. It was she, the only woman with the expedition, who would guide the white men, for only she knew the way. She would see her own people at last. She would see what lay on the other side of the mountain spires. In February, a son, Baptiste, was born to Sacajawea and Charbonneau. By April, the river ice had broken and the expedition started out. This was in the year 1804. Sacajawea swung her baby to her back and took her place in the first boat. Behind this came another boat and 6 canoes. Baptiste was carried on his mother's shoulders, held close and tight in her blanket shawl for the whole of that journey for many hundreds of miles. The days stretched far ahead. At first the travellers had enough food, for there was plenty of game. But the river and the winds fought them desperately. The boats, heavily loaded with food, clothing, ammunition, and gifts for the Indians along the way, moved upstream slowly. They were often grounded in the sand and gravel of shallow water. Janey was Captain Clark's name. For Sacajawea, it was easier to say than her Indian one. Janey would say, when they camped for the night, "Tell us about the country." So in sign language and in halting French or English, Sacajawea would tell of Indian trails and camps. She would warn of bad water and of poisonous plants and of fierce animals. Her gentle manner and her young child softened the rough men and gave them heart to keep on as the way grew more difficult. Somehow she sensed that this was a matter of the utmost importance to them all, though she did not understand why. Once the wind and the water overturned a boat filled with instruments and valuable papers that could never be replaced. Into the icy stream plunged a figure, swimming about until everything had been saved. "It is Sacajawea," the men shouted. "It is Janey, with Baptiste still on her back." They pulled her into the boat and made for shore and a roaring fire. At last the travellers came to where the river divided into 3 separate channels. Sacajawea knew this was near her homeland. The 2 captains were worried, for no white man had passed to the west of Sacagawea's people. Would the Shoshones recognize the long-lost girl? Would they listen to her? Would she really remember her language? The party was in need of help. They must have horses in order to cross the Great Divide. As the expedition reached the crest of the hill, Sacajawea suddenly gave a cry of joy. She saw a Shoshone camp. A band of Indians waited the approach of the strangers. The chief at their head, Sacajawea rushed forward and threw her blanket about the shoulders of the chief. "We are of the same blanket," she cried in her native tongue. "I came with my brother. Do you not remember Sacajawea?" The Indian looked at her in wonder. "This is the lost one," they cried. "She is of our people." There was great rejoicing, and a council was held. Sacajawea spoke to her people in behalf of the Captain Lewis and Clark. The Indians listened to her with close attention, even though a council circle was no place for a woman, and this was an unheard of thing. My sister's friend and my brother's, Kamawait, said when she had finished, Ask of us what you will. You may have horses and guides to help you over the mountains. Janie has saved the day, Lewis said. We owe her not only our instruments, but our very lives. If we get through to the coast, she will deserve most of the credit. The Lewis and Clark expedition did not get away from the Shoshone village until the end of August, and now they came to the hardest part of the journey. In the mountains, the winter storms began to swirl, and snow and sleet bit at their faces and hands. Horsemen and men were exhausted from the steep trails. It seemed sometimes as though they could not stand up against the hardships, but somehow they kept on. Then one clear November day, the explorers stood in silence as they saw Old Glory float to the top of a tall tree. There, inside of the ocean, Captain Lewis spoke slowly and firmly. I claim this land in the name of the United States of America, he said. Sacajawea held Baptiste up to see the breakers as they roared and pounded on the beach. She was the first woman to cross the great mountains. She was Sacajawea, the bird woman. Captain Clark tried to thank her for all she had done. Without you, Janie, he said, perhaps all this might never have been. Sacajawea smiled at him. She did not understand his words, but she wanted to share with him something of her own deep feeling. She pointed to the breaking waves. I see, she said, I see.